Our next guest on Knucks and Pucks joins us from WHL training camp with the Portland Winterhawks as he prepares to embark on his fourth WHL season and add to his 188 career games played. Mason Mannek. Mason, thank you so much for taking some time with us tonight.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
And as I just mentioned, you guys are just kicking off training camp here, almost a week in now. So what are you guys up to? How's it been rolling?
Man, it's different. It's been crazy. There's all this protocol going on, and we can only have a certain amount of guys in the room at a time. So it's kind of hard to get to know the new guys to a certain aspect. But at the same time, man, we've been waiting for this for a year. So it's like, we're kind of all coming in guns a-blazing, ready to go.
So you guys are all, quarantining right now, getting set for the season. You kind of mentioned only a certain amount of guys in the room. How's that been, creating chemistry and whatnot? Obviously, it, sets a little bit of a damper there.
Yeah, 100%. It's been different. Like, it's a lot of communication between us older guys and the coaches to kind of figure out what these younger guys are about, because we really have no idea. And to a certain extent, like, we got to wear masks while we're in the rink. We don't even know what these guys look like. You know what I mean? Like, it's so weird. But like I've said, I feel bad for these younger guys coming in because they don't really know much about the city or about what they're getting into. And now on top of this, we can't really hang out outside the rink. So it's different, but it's an adjustment. But like I said, like, we're so excited. It doesn't even, it's kind of just another bump in the road, but, we'll get over it. So
Anything to play hockey, right?
yeah, exactly, man. Like, seriously, like, it's been a full year, I think. Over a year by the time our first game happened. So
Yeah, that's insane. And you go from nothing to real quick here because you do have a 13-day training camp, I guess. Just where you guys at in the process and how's it been to, try to go from nothing to ramp up to games here in such a short time?
yeah, it's crazy. I think our coaches have handled it well, though, as far as like workload and all that. We kind of eased into it just because a lot of guys in Canada that weren't able to train, they've been shut down. I've been pretty fortunate. I'm from Utah, and so everything was pretty open. We didn't really run into that problem, but a lot of guys haven't skated in a month or two, and so it's kind of dangerous to come into a training camp with that being just with torn muscles and all that. So I think they did a good job with our workload. And, everyone, now that we've been going for about over a week now, everyone's kind of back into pace. We're getting to more competitive, more battle drills and stuff. So it's good for everyone right now.
Now, Mason, I mean, going into your fourth season, what the WHL is all about. The U.S. Division. And I mean, this season, you're going to be playing 24 games all within that same division. I mean, how crazy are these rivalries going to get?
I don't know. We've been thinking about that for a long time. We've had some great battles with every team in the division, over the years. And it's exciting. And, the best part about it is like, it's the most fun hockey to play because, like, this year, especially when there's not necessarily a playoff or there's not a championship, it doesn't matter because, like, this division is so competitive. Like, we could play for nothing and it's going to be fun to watch, and it's going to be certainly fun to play. And so it's going to be a good time.
Now, just speaking of playing, you guys are starting your first few home games actually playing out of Kent, Washington. So do you guys, I guess, how are you handling that? Do you know how that's going to be handled here throughout the season? And what's it going to be like not being able to play games actually at home in Portland?
Yeah, it's going to be weird. We don't really know a whole lot about the format and the schedule and all that. They haven't really told us much about it. But, I mean, basically what we know is what you guys know is that we're going to play our 2 home games up there. So I don't know if it'll make a huge difference just because fans won't be in the building anyway. So I don't know if it's going to be a huge adjustment. I think it'll be kind of nice to kind of get on the bus and, get back to that way of life. But as far as like a home ice advantage, I don't know if it'll be any different. It'll be weird to play Seattle as the home team in their own barn, but like I don't know. That's probably as crazy as it'll get.
Now, mentioning fans, we've obviously watched NHL games without fans and whatnot, and it's been a little different. What do you think it'll be like, actually playing in that situation versus just watching it?
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, you've heard these NHL guys say that once the puck drops, they really can't tell. And I think that's true to an extent because when you play in a sold-out barn, like when we play Saturday night in Seattle, when it's bumping, everyone's screaming. When you're playing, you can't really hear it. So I can't imagine it's going to be that different while you're playing. I think like warm-ups and that aspect will be a lot different and kind of an adjustment. But I mean, after a period or two, like, yeah, I don't know. I really have no idea what to expect. I'm just going off what I've heard so far. So I don't know. It's going to be weird for sure.
One thing I did want to talk about too, just the fact you are back in camp, and Seth Jarvis has been returned to Portland, and I mean, we
Yeah.
saw him just finish lighting it up in the AHL. He must just be buzzing
Yeah.
in camp right now, eh?
Yeah, man. What a guy. He's a great guy in the room. And, like, I remember he came in and he played a couple games for us as a 15-year-old. And I believe he played playoffs too. And it was my first year here. I was 17. And it's like, you're like, this kid can't be real. Like, seriously. Like, he's so good. Like, at 15, he was like lighting it up, which is pretty much unheard of, right? So, but I mean, as far as camp right now, he's so good. Like, his vision is crazy. He can score from anywhere. So, it's a good guy to have on your team.
Makes sense that he was second last year in league scoring and a first rounder. It's whatever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Seriously, just another accolade for him.
All right, now I want to move it away from camp and more on to you. And as you mentioned, you're from Utah, Harriman, Utah. That
Yeah.
is, I guess, for
Mhm.
us, because we're a little ignorant up north. But what's the
Yeah.
hockey community like in Utah? Is there a pretty big, hockey culture in the state?
No, not at all, actually. So it's getting there. Youth hockey is growing, but like I tell everyone, we've been pretty fortunate to have the Olympics there in '02. So our facilities are awesome. Like I've traveled pretty much everywhere, in Canada and the US, and I think our facilities are top notch. The problem is nobody uses them because everyone wants to go skiing, or in the summer they're playing football or baseball or whatever. So when I was 13, I actually had to move out. I went and played in Colorado, and they have a much better, more competitive program out there. I played with the Thunderbirds, and I had Adam Foote as my coach, and Joe Sakic was our assistant coach. So I couldn't say no to that. But as far as like the Utah community, like it's small. It is getting there, but it's not quite producing top level talent yet. But I think it's well on its way.
Now, Evan is going to ask you about Colorado here in 1 second, but I just wanted to ask here too. You mentioned not a big hockey community, but how did you get involved with hockey then, coming from Utah?
My great grandfather, he was from Germany and he played back there. And so it's kind of been a family thing, and it just kind of got passed down generation to generation. And my family, it kind of got more serious as it got passed down through generations. So my dad and my uncle, they played club college in Utah, and then they kind of passed it down to us. So we've been skating since we were, as much as I can remember, 2 years old or whatever. And then my cousin and my cousin actually, he played in Colorado as well. And then that was kind of it for him. And then I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity with Portland. But it's just been a family thing. That's kind of what we do we go fishing in the summer, and in the winter we play hockey. So that's kind of that's what we're about.
Sounds like the life to me.
Yeah, exactly. You can't complain.
So eBay was right. I am going to ask you about your time in Colorado there. I mean, I guess just first and foremost, how did you end up going there at such a young age?
So there was a fall tournament in Colorado when I was playing in Utah, and we ended up playing against the Thunderbirds. They worked us pretty good, but I was fortunate because Adam Foote was the coach of that Colorado team, and after that game, my dad was the coach of our team, and after that game, Adam started talking to my dad about me possibly going there. And at first, it was kind of like, I mean, I was 13, right? So my parents were like, "Yeah, no way." And then they ended up having a spring tournament in Minnesota that following spring, and they invited us. And so me and another kid from my team who actually he went to Colorado with me my first year. We went to this tournament, and after that tournament, it was like, I couldn't say no. Like, they were so good to me. If my dad, I finally convinced my mom to let me go. And then for that first year, I pretty much lived. So we had an apartment, but we lived with the other kid from Utah. His mom was a flight attendant for Southwest, so she was gone quite a bit. So when she was gone, we actually lived at the Foote's house, which was, like, I'm not kidding, incredible. like Joe Sakic lived down the road. Like, we would just go hang out at his house, like, just because we had nothing else to do. Like, we were insanely spoiled. Then the following year, I lived at his house full time, and so his boy Nolan is my age, and he's first rounded to Tampa, now New Jersey. So he's one of my best friends, and it was, man, I can't say, like, I seriously lived a dream. Like, we would come home from practice and be like, Joe Sakic's over for dinner or Patrick Wall's over for dinner. Like I'm not like a kid, like a small town kid from Utah is like my eyes were just popping for the whole year. It was nuts.
So basically just hockey 24/7 nonstop shoved down your throat.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like we'd be at the dinner table. There's 2 TVs on, 2 different games. And Adam's telling us like, look what this guy did. Don't do that. Look what this guy did. Do that. And like, yeah, but that's what you need. Like from a young age, like you can't complain about that. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, you talk about the coaches. You say Adam Foote, Joe Sakic, obviously Patrick Waugh. I mean, you must have had like the defensive aspect of your game nailed down by 14 when you're learning from Adam Foote, eh?
Yeah, exactly. And it transpires so good to coming into junior because like you go from youth to junior and your game changes a bit, right? So like you're not necessarily the skill guy that you always used to be. And I think that really helped me because now that we have Don Hay here in Portland, and I can't say enough good things about him. He kind of took me under his wing, and that's been awesome. But that's kind of his game, is a lot of that defensive structure, like penalty kill type stuff. And I think that really did help me become like a decent penalty killer, a decent D zone guy. So yeah, like learning from day one from those guys like helped me big time.
I mean, you talk about, growing your game, but even just, growing as a person, moving out that early, how much do you think that helped you just throughout, the WHL process, the whole building, living away from home, whatnot?
Yeah, it made it easier for sure. Coming to Portland, it was different just because, it's definitely a different atmosphere, but I kind of knew what I was getting into. And so at that point, I didn't really have to worry about the moving away part just because I had it nailed down to where I could focus on hockey just because it's a lot more strict when you get to the WHL, like you be on time for meetings, you got to prepare, warm up before the warm up, stuff like that. And I think those guys really taught me that before I even came here. And it was to the point to where when I was 17, where a lot of guys they were leaving home for the first time, I kind of nailed down those things to where I could start working on other things to become like, better rookie, better veteran in the coming years and all that.
Now, just speaking on the move to Portland, how did you come to Portland, I guess is the way to put it, because you were actually drafted in the USHL by Omaha, weren't selected by the Dubs. So how did you end up choosing Portland?
Yeah, that in itself is kind of a crazy story. So I was undrafted in WHL, and I remember that day like it was yesterday. Like it was the most heartbreaking day for me because we were at a district camp to make national camp, and all my buddies were getting drafted, and we were all with each other, and then like not seeing my name called, it was just brutal. And then I got a phone call from Portland like 2 days after that, and they invited me to their camp. And so location wise, being from Utah, it was perfect. So we're like, yeah, for sure, let's do it. So I had a good camp. I got protected from Portland, and I kind of fell in love with it, the organization, like the professionalism, and just going out playing against first round, second round draft picks at training camp. It was pretty surreal for me. So I was kind of sold on the Portland deal. And then I didn't get drafted in the USHL. So then I was pretty much like 99.9% I want to go to Portland. And then it was my second year in the USHL draft for eligibility. And I signed with Portland like 2 days before the draft. And so I hadn't talked to Omaha at all the whole year. I had no idea they even had interest. And 2 days later, they drafted me like second round or something. And that was kind of a nightmare in itself to not go into too much detail, but they weren't very happy with that decision. But I mean, I haven't regretted it since. I would do it all over again in a heartbeat.
Well, I mean, if they don't tell you or talk to you about it, what do they really expect, right?
That's what I was thinking in my own head. But then, you start second guessing yourself. But I mean, whether they did or didn't, I would have came to Portland without a doubt. You have our coach like Mike Johnston. We have Don Hay, who's like one of the winningest coaches in junior hockey history. Then we play long guys, Cody Glass, Joachim Blickfield, Seth Jarvis, stuff like you can't beat that. So,
and I mean, from what Eric and I have heard just from talking with different guys who've gone through Portland is exactly what you said. It's such it's like you're playing in the pros really at 17, 16, whatever it is.
It really is. And, we have guys mid-season get traded here, and they can have an eye-opening experience every time. They're like, holy cow, like this is crazy, So it's pretty awesome to be a part of. And I think it's definitely one of the most, obviously the well-known organizations and throughout the whole CHL. So I'm pretty blessed to be a part of it.
Now, I mean, you're already used to walking around famous people and big names with your trip to Colorado, but you walk into Portland and your top 5 scorers your first season: Cody Glass, Skylar McKenzie, Kiefer Bellows, Henry Jokiharju, and Joachim Blickfeld. I mean, what's it like when you walk into Portland the first time?
Absolutely terrifying. Like, seriously. I mean, I've never gone against caliber, like players of that caliber ever in my life, nor could I imagine I could even like skate on the same ice as them. So it was like, it was nuts. And then I remember one game in Tri-City, there was 7 first-round draft picks playing in that game. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Seriously. But no, it's awesome. You got to learn from those guys. I actually, I roomed with Henry all year on the road, and learning from that guy was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. He, like, for example, he would stretch before every game, the night before every game, for like 2 hours. And it's like simple stuff like that. Like, it's like what he eats 2 days before a game. It's what he eats, the night before a game. It's all routine, and it's also like structure. And it's kind of like eye-opening to me, because I'm like you think you know what it takes, but until you see a guy like that, like, you really have no idea, because it's so, like, the attention to detail is so crazy of how much it really affects you, and how much, like, these guys are leaps and bounds above most people, and it's definitely for a reason. So learning from those guys, it was something else.
I was just about to ask, is there maybe a guy who specifically took you under his wing? But I feel like you kind of answered it there. Henry just showed you the ropes of how to be a real, junior player and a real successful junior player.
Yeah, Henry was awesome. And our captain too, I got to give credit to him. Keone Teixeira that year. He was awesome to me. He was staying at the Bill House I was at. He was there the year before. So we had kind of something little in common, which goes a long way when you're just meeting someone. But he took me under his wing as far as off the ice for sure. But him and Henry were definitely one of the top 2.
Now, you mentioned just eye-opening experiences left, right, and center between off ice, the what it takes to be a pro. But was there ever an on-ice moment that was kind of, I'm here in junior, like, this is not minor hockey anymore?
Yeah, I would say probably my first game, we were playing against Dennis Chalowski, who's a first-rounder of Detroit. My family grew up huge Detroit fans, so we kind of knew all about him. So it's kind of like a fanboy moment for me a little bit. But I think number one was playing in Seattle the first time. Like, those games get crazy, and you go out for the first period and they're screaming Portland sucks, and it's like you just feed off. Like, it is so cool that, like, thousands of people come to watch you play and scream at you, and like, they're ruthless too, but it's awesome. Like, that's what it's all about. So
is there obviously the fans are a huge aspect of it. So, was there a one rink that, was maybe your favorite, or vice versa, your least favorite rink in the Dub?
Ooh, I don't know. Yeah, Seattle takes the cake for sure for most favorite. As far as away, our rinks here are awesome in Portland. They're my favorite, but I'm biased. But least favorite, I don't know about least favorite. It's different when you get to the East teams, just because, like, they might not draw a full crowd. Like, when we come, we only play them every once in a while, right? So if we were playing, like, if it was like Calgary versus Edmonton, it might be a lot different. But I don't know. Some of those SAS rinks, they're old. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, old, small town, dead of winter. Not a ton of fun to play in, I can expect.
Yeah, but no. They are some of the most fun to play in. I will say that. And I'm an American, but nothing is cooler to me than when we play on a weekend in Canada and the whole crowd sings "Oh Canada." Like, it is insane. Like, I've never experienced something like that, but like every city we play in does it. It's pretty cool.
It's pretty impressive. I've actually, me and Evan being from Canada, you never really think about it, but that's kind of cool to hear that from your perspective, how that's sort of different up here.
Yes, it gives me chills every time. And like, I tell everybody that it's a cool experience.
Now, you have brought up a few different coaches you played for, and the one guy I did want to kind of focus on was obviously Mike Johnston. He's been there your entire tenure in Portland, had a cup of coffee with Pittsburgh, the NHL. Just what does he bring as a coach with, just loads of experience, both WHL and professionally?
Yeah, the knowledge is insane. Like he knows for every situation. And I talk about attention to detail before. Like he is the most attention to detail coach I've ever played for. And like in the best way possible, like on and off the ice. But you could tell from his experience, like the guy, like he knows how to win. And a lot of times, especially through juniors, your role might start to change. And I struggled with that personally, like for the first couple of years trying to change my role. And once I kind of, it's like thought to myself, you know what, he's right. Like if I want to play, then I got to do it. And once I started doing that, like things start happening for me, right? So it's like the things he knows that you might like, it's like the harsh reality sometimes. But once you buy into it, like you're like, dang, like this guy, like he knows what he's talking about. So, I mean, just loads of experience, and you really like. I'll say you take it for granted until it's your last couple of years. But yeah, I can't say enough good things for sure.
It's like it's the small things that lead to team success, right?
Exactly, and that's when we started doing the best. Like especially last year, we had a great team last year, and I thought it was simply because we all kind of bought into our roles, to our systems, and all that, and it pays off. It shows.
I was just about to ask. I mean, talking about your team last year, obviously, ranked first when things did shut down there. But did you guys really expect to be, that number one team and as good as you really were, after losing guys like Cody Glass, Joachim Blichfeld, who, I mean, led the dub in points the year before?
Yeah.
Most guys would think, you're probably going to take a step down, but you guys just went up in the standings.
Yeah, like to be completely honest with you, going into that year, like if you would have told me that was how it was going to end, I would have not believed you, because I thought like with the guys we lost, but I mean our leadership group last year was awesome. Like John Ludwiig, I mean that guy is an absolute animal. Like he led us on and off the ice. I mean, I think it was just like back to that buy-in process. Like we were a super close-knit group, which helps like tremendously. I think my first 2 years, I'll say like we weren't the most like close group, coming from a younger guy standpoint. And I think that kind of affected us in the playoffs. But last year I thought we were super close. We loved to be at the rink. We all like bought in to fight for each other. And it makes a difference in the long run when you play those long series against Everett or Seattle. Like that's what it kind of comes down to. I mean, you could have all the skill in the world, but if you guys don't want to block shots for each other, then it's not going to work out. So.
Well, you bring up Ludwig, and I mean, didn't he just win an award with the Syracuse Crunch for best cardio or most fitness ready or something? So he must have just made you guys want to run through a wall.
Seriously, he is like the stuff he does to get ready, and that goes back to his preparation. I mean, he's my age, and I was learning stuff from that guy, ever since we both got here at the same time. And it just shows like he is like his skill took leaps and bounds, in my opinion, that he is now like, I would say probably the hardest defenseman I've ever played against. He's tough to play against. He can score from anywhere. Like he makes you pay when you go into a corner with him. Like he's all around just, great guy and also great defenseman.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a weird noise I just made there, but continuing on here, do you remember your first fight? I was just creeping some hockeyfights.com, and honestly, when I saw on Elite Prospects, it said you were about 5'9" and 170, and then I saw you had like 15 WHL fights. I was like, what the hell? Do you remember your first one?
Yeah, I do. The first one, it was kind of a blur. It was in Edmonton, and it was playing in that rink was like, I don't know if you guys have been there, but oh my God, like what a place. And so fighting there was pretty cool because every time the Oilers play now, I'm like, yeah, I fought in that rink. It was just in a corner. I think I slashed. It was Will Warren was my first one. I think I slashed him, and then I turned at him, and then I was kind of like, all right, here we go. We'll see what happens. And I didn't really I don't think I really threw a punch. He might have thrown one, didn't connect. It was kind of nothing, but to get my first one out from under me, it was like dang, that was cool. And so I kind of fell in love with it, dude. Honestly, I love it.
So basically, every time you see that corner on TV, you're just hey, see that corner? That was me fighting there.
Yeah, exactly. In my family, we kind of I don't know if they like when I tell this, but whatever. But I mean, my dad, my uncle, and my cousin, we kind of grew up with that that Bash brother mentality, you know, like when we all play in Utah, everyone's like, oh boy, here come the Manneks again. So I kind of had to live up to my name a bit. And, you know, they give me pointers every now and then, and, you know, they love it. And I think they're proud when I do it. So, and I like it too. So my mom don't like it, but whatever.
Well, I mean, you do have a few guys who are, 6'4", 6'2" on that fight card. So yeah, you obviously don't really care, drop them whenever, wherever, if need be, right?
Yeah. You know, I like going the big guys is fun too. You know, it's just more of a test. And, you know, like if you do good and you win, it looks pretty good. And if you don't, whatever. But
yeah, you're supposed to lose, right?
Yeah, just kidding. I don't like to lose, but no, it's good. Going the big guys is fun. Like it's more of a challenge, and you got to be stronger, and you got to hang in there, and it really tests your toughness. So that's what I like about it. But
is there a scrap that you remember the most out of your career? I mean, maybe besides your first one.
I had a good one last February. It was at home against the Moda. I played like 6 seconds, got kicked out for stage fight. And then my last one was pretty good. I fought a pretty tough guy, Dawson Butt off Everett. I fought him at center ice. That one was awesome. My parents were there for that one, and my dad was pretty pumped. That one, it lasted a long time. It was over a minute, well over a minute, and we both got to the box and looked at each other. And he looks at me and he goes, "I need an oxygen tank." And I was like, "Yeah, me too." Like, geez. But most memorable, actually, I forgot about this one. So my home opener last year, I got into one at the end of the game, and this guy, he like suckered me, kind of like I didn't really see him, and my nose started bleeding, and I freaked out. Anyway, long story short, I didn't really like how the fight ended up. Like I did good. I don't think he won by any means, but he came back 2 weeks later, and I was thinking about him for the whole 2 weeks, and my mom came to town, and I said, "Mom," I said, "my first shift this game, you're probably not going to want to watch, okay? I'm just warning you right now." And so first shift, I win him. We did good. He turned out to be a super good guy after. We talked a little bit. It was long. It was a long one again. It was probably like a minute and a half, but then the Coliseum afterwards just was fired up. Everyone was screaming, and it was kind of like that point where I was like, you know what, like I got to stand up for myself, and I kind of realized like I can hang in with these big guys. And that's kind of like the point where the confidence of my fighting ability kind of peaked. And I realized, you know, like I can do this. They can do this. Like, you know, so yeah, anyway.
So yeah, had the whole building standing and your mom was still at the concession stand buying popcorn?
Yeah, probably if she even came. I don't know. I saw her afterwards, so she might have just barely got there.
One of the guys I want to talk about on last year's team, and he came over halfway through the season, was Joel Hofer. And I mean, you talk about him at the World Juniors. He was kind of an unknown walking into most of Canada, but for you guys, you obviously knew what he was all about. So I mean, just what is it like when you have a guy back there? What kind of confidence does that give you? And did you see him? You know, did his game change after his great World Juniors?
Yeah, his confidence was awesome. Obviously, after you have a performance like that, it'd be hard not to be super confident. But he's a hockey nut for sure. He loves the game, and he shows up every day, and he's happy to be there, and he loves hanging out with the guys, and it makes our job easy, you know, like especially coming from like a penalty kill standpoint, that, you know, he has our back, and if we maybe screw up or lose our guy or whatever it may be, that 9 times out of 10 he's going to make a save. And he also he loves to go for the goalie goals too. I'm surprised he hasn't had one yet, but no, he's a great guy. He really works hard at what he does, and there's a reason he's so good. And from a player's standpoint too, coming from practice, when you get to shoot against a goalie of that caliber to it, you know, there's nothing but good things about that. So
now just bringing it back around here, obviously you're about to embark on your final WHL season, 24 games here. I guess what's your goal, you know, personally, team-wise here for this last stretch of hockey for you in the dub?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know. It's just gonna be weird because there's no really like end goal. I have no doubt in my mind that everybody's going to go out there and play 120%. And I think the biggest thing, honestly, is that the young guys kind of get a taste of this league. And even though I'm not going to be here, I think that, the Winterhawks have a lot of good things coming in their future. For me, it's like, man, just enjoy it because, like we don't know. I personally don't know what the future brings. And, just kind of just enjoy it, go to the rink every day, smile on my face and work hard, and we'll see what happens. But I'm excited to start getting into game situations again. It's going to be nice.
And now just to wrap it all up here, I mean, we've gone through quite a bit of your career, but if there was one moment you could pick out, what's kind of your favorite moment of your career so far?
Game 7, without a doubt, my first year. That was the most intense day of, like, I can't even explain it. So we played in Spokane, game 6. I want to say that we were winning and they came back and scored 2 pretty quick goals, and we ended up losing. And so game 7 was the next night in Portland. And so we drove halfway to Tri-Cities and stayed there. And that whole day we drove back from Tri-Cities on our way to the rink. And that was the year we had, all those first rounders, the guys that, almost that I looked up to since I was little. And the bus ride was just silent. Like, the feeling was, I can't even explain the feeling. It was so nerve-wracking, especially as a young guy. And then that game, just seeing how we all kind of came together, and because we were winning that series 3-1, I believe. So momentum definitely wasn't in our favor. And seeing those, guys like Kiefer and Cody and Yoakum take that step up, and us winning that game, and it was pretty close to sold out. And so just that whole experience of winning that, it was pretty sweet.
Well, Mason, we can't thank you enough for taking the time with us this evening. Looking forward to seeing you guys back on the ice soon, and best of luck this season.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. That was a lot of fun.